Rabat from Derby, England. I wanted to ask your opinion on Al Snow's argument that Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant at WrestleMania III, and not Randy Savage against Ricky Steamboat, was the best match on the show because it sold the most tickets. By that logic, Triple H against Randy Orton at WrestleMania 25 was the best match on that show because it sold the most tickets and was the main event. And Shawn Michaels against The Undertaker was in fact not the best match. Do you agree with this? No, I don't agree with that at all. Just to give a little bit of context here, this is from a Sean Oliver shoot that Al Snow did many years ago, where he calls everybody a fucking idiot who thinks that Savage and Steamboat was the best match on the show because nobody bought a ticket to see the two of them. They bought a ticket to see Hogan and Andre. Ergo, they had the best match on the show. And Oliver, to his credit, and shout out to him because he does a great job with these shoots, Sean Oliver tried to correct him and say, well, they had the most important match. And Al Snow was having none of it. He doubles down and says, no. They had the best match. Because without that match, there would be no wrestling business as we know it today. I disagree with that argument. And yes, I know, I'm just a silly mark, right? That would be the argument. That probably might be Al Snow's argument. He's the wrestler, I'm the fan, I'm the mark, what do I know? Here's what I know. Just my opinion. I disagree with the argument. I thought one person in the comments section of the video that I saw that had this clip said it best. That it would be like saying Transformers is the best movie ever made because it made $1 gazillion. And Michael Bay, therefore, is the best director. On what planet anybody would make the argument that Michael Bay is the best director? I don't want to live on that planet. It is a nonsensical argument. In his mind, the best means that which does the most business. It comes down to his definition and your definition of what you consider that to mean. What do you mean by the best? Your definition of that may be very different than mine. Clearly, his definition is different than mine. That's his definition of it, and that's fine. He's entitled to that opinion. Most people, I think, would not define it that way. When you talk about the best match, I think most people, and this includes wrestlers, not just fans, so this is not a wrestler versus fan thing. Most people, I would argue, would look at it in the context of the performance, of the work, of the story being told. You could end up having the best match on the show with two people who couldn't draw flies if you gave them a pen and paper. Right? You gave WrestleMania 25 as an example in your question, implying that because Triple H and Randy Orton were the main event of that show, that means they had the best match. There is not a person alive, other than maybe Stephanie McMahon and Mrs. Orton, who would think those two had the best match on that WrestleMania card. Nor did the majority of people buy their ticket just to see Triple H wrestle Randy Orton. I mean, these days, it's more the WrestleMania name that sells tickets than any one match. But no person in their right mind is going to tell me that those two had the best match, even if they did sell 50,000 tickets to that show, which they didn't. You could be the money match and sell a lot of tickets, but then go out there and stink out the joint. I mean, UFC gives bonuses for fight of the night. Does that mean that every fight that wins is the fight that drew the most people to the show? Of course not. You could have two names go out there, two no-names. Two people you've never heard of, two fighters that nobody would be able to point out in a lineup, go out there and win for fight of the night. You know, at their core, when you really think about it, WWE and UFC are not really all that different. Hogan Andre was the draw. Clearly, they were the draw of WrestleMania III. They were the main attraction. They were the main event. That entire show was built around this story of Hogan versus Andre. No different than a big UFC show used to be built around a GSP fight, or a John Jones fight, or a Ronda Rousey fight. But if they go out there and they have a boring shit fight that drags on for 5 rounds, or a bad fight that ends in 10 seconds, that does not make it the best fight, just because it was the draw. You would be laughed at for that. And rightfully so.